All right, what's going on, everybody? We're doing a weekly live stream here with a bunch of Bitcoiners. I'm Forrest Huddle from Bitcoin Not Crypto, Dan from Through the Cracks Productions, Josh from WorkSave Bitcoin, John from My Favorite Thing About Bitcoin, and Ralph from Nurse Hodl. And we might be joined by Gen Z BTC, maybe some other Bitcoiners. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll star them. We'll address them throughout the show potentially, but probably about halfway through. We do this show for an hour. About halfway through, we'll start addressing the questions a lot more. That'll give us some topics to talk on. But we're going to cover some things throughout that have happened throughout the week. Do you guys have anything you want to start with? I was thinking the first one here, in my opinion, is that, Bitcoin's price, it's something that we all pay attention to, I'm sure. And it's only 10% off of all-time highs. That's something that's crazy to me. Like, we had this big drawdown, all the tariffs, like so many comments in my comment section, bull markets over all this. We're 10% off of the highs. We're so close.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, like, very selfishly, I get paid every Friday, and so I'm just hoping for it to go down a little bit more so when I get my next paycheck. I mean, it's gonna go up eventually, but let's cross our fingers and hope it goes down a little bit before, so we can buy more sats before it goes up. So
Yeah.
I think it's crazy how impatient people are. I mean, if you're on X or whatever, right? It's crazy how impatient people are, and how, like, you would think, when you see the fear and greed index, and it's like, if we're at 86K, and it's like extreme fear, and you're like, this is nuts, dude. I can't believe how impatient people are. And I just saw one yesterday that was basically like, from my perspective, you see tons of people talking about how good gold is doing, and the gold bugs are gloating, and this is for the first time since I think 2008, gold is finally beating the S&P returns on the S&P if you held each of the two assets since 2008 recession, and gold is finally beating it. So it's like they're all having a party, and then you just look and it's like, well, since like Trump's Liberation Day, Bitcoin is still beating gold. Like,
yeah.
And it's going to keep on beating gold for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Josh just shared this chart. I'm going to bring this up. This is kind of interesting. It's slightly off topic from what we were talking about, but this is a chart from River, from a presentation or a pamphlet they have on how to invest in Bitcoin with your business. This is such an interesting chart, actually. Inflation adjusted returns, cash, in the last 5 years, you're down 19%. So your purchasing power is eroded like crazy. Negative 6.7 for if you're in a money market fund, which returns probably in that time between 2 and 5%, probably, I imagine. This is crazy though. 97% cash. So you're going down 19% on that 97%, and 3% in Bitcoin. If you're to hold that as a treasury reserve, just 3%, you're up 20% total in your inflation adjusted returns for a very, very conservative treasury reserve system.
It's actually insane. Yeah. I just sent this to the company I work for, like the whole presentation, hoping to get some Bitcoin on our balance sheet. So we'll see how it goes.
Damn, 3% though. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Well, and I've heard similar things like that in the past too, right? Where the people will do back tests. I think there's a Nakamoto portfolio. There's a website you go to, right, where you can do a back test and you can look at, if I just held 1% in Bitcoin, right, like it outperforms the 60-40 equity bond portfolio with the tiniest percentages of Bitcoin. That's even crazier because that's only the last 5 years, so that's not capturing since inception when Bitcoin's done 100,000%, right? But that's crazy. And that's why it's inevitable, right? Like, more and more TradFi people, like people who want to dismiss Bitcoin or say they think it's a fad or a Ponzi or whatever. Well, you can't, like, okay, 1%, like that's all you got to do to just dip your little toe in, and then you're going to outperform, and you're going to have better Sharpe ratio, better risk adjusted returns. And people are just going to be like, wait a second, why am I ignoring this thing?
Yeah. It should be reputation risk. It should be all the risk now, in my opinion, is on not adopting this, on not learning about it. It used to be risky to adopt it early, to be invested in Bitcoin, right? I think all the risk has shifted, in my opinion. It's totally risky to not understand this asset now when it has performed so well and when it has so much additional potential into the future.
Yeah. Do you think this moment right now, sorry, Dan, if you're going to talk, answer, this moment right now is the best, potentially the best risk-adjusted time to buy Bitcoin ever?
100%. I mean, so much of it has been de-risked, right? Like the ETFs coming in has de-risked it so much. You can now hedge, like literally, like in a financial sense, you could buy puts on an ETF and price and hedge your price exposure to an asset now. That didn't really exist beforehand. And the fact that there's so much institutional adoption is additional risk. It's been de-risked politically as well all around the world, especially in the US at this point. It's crazy. I think that it has become, it's an entirely different beast, not fundamentally through the code so much, but like as far as what it actually, how it's perceived at this point, and the, all the regulation fears don't exist anymore, in my opinion. I mean, maybe some degree in some sort of aspects, but like so much of it has been de-risked.
Yeah, and like we're all here to educate people on Bitcoin, and like we don't even have to give the whole spiel anymore. Like, it could be volatile in the short term, but these are the fundamentals. Like at this point, it's just like check the scoreboard, bro. Like look at that chart. Like we don't even have to go through the whole spiel anymore.
The thing is too, like, how like, BlackRock had that report recently saying that I think it was like what 5%. I can't remember the exact number. They were saying to invest a small portion that's gonna make a lot. That's gonna be a big return. I feel like for me, I'm like, I tend to, I don't give financial advice, but I'm like, hey, like try to put 25% instead, because I feel like the more you have in there, it's gonna like force you to actually try and research what it is about. Because if you just have like 2 to 5%, it's like, okay, what if it goes to zero, whatever. But like when you have it's not high enough, but it's 25% is significant. It really like it forces you to kind of be like, okay, I don't want to lose all that money, but like, so like, let me do some research. What do you guys think about that? Like, is 25% too much?
Dude, what I think about when I see that chart by River, it's an amazing chart, but I think about it in reverse. I'm holding 3% cash, 97% Bitcoin. Like that to me is more responsible.
Yeah.
25 no, you know what, to be modest and conservative and stuff, 25 is great. That's a great place to
start.
Even to start, or maybe even a little bit more in like beyond starting too, you ease into these things, and as it becomes, I mean, it's going to get to 25% of your portfolio at some point anyway, whether you buy more of it or not, because your portfolio will trend towards your Bitcoin holdings, in my opinion. But yeah. All right, guys.
It's all about get off zero, right? Get off zero is the messaging.
Yeah. There's another topic here on the agenda, and a question from the chat. TCC asks, is the new Canadian PM pro Bitcoin? I know I'm the only Canadian here, so I'll just quickly summarize that the Canadians around me, my neighbors, my friends, family, we voted to accelerate. We decided that the last 9 years of unaffordable housing, of rampant inflation, of the lowest GDP for the top 20 nations out there, we decided that's great and we want more of it. And Trudeau made many great Bitcoiners because of how terrible this country has become. And Carney will make many more great Canadian Bitcoiners because he will not do a good job. And yeah, that's about as political as I'm going to get here.
I have a dumb question. Why is the guy the Prime Minister of Canada, but he was formerly the Governor of the Bank of England? I don't get that.
He's never been a politician in his life. He was actually some position within the Bank of Canada as well. But yeah, he was the governor of the Bank of the UK. He's a central banker, right? Like that's part of his history, part of his profession. He also has some other businesses. He like wrote a book as well. But yeah, they just figured like, let's snake this guy in. He became the prime minister when Trudeau resigned, and he's never been a politician before. and they just took the wind out of the conservatives' sails, because the conservatives were like, their whole marching thing was, we're going to axe the tax, we're going to get rid of the carbon tax, we're going to open up business, we're going to make affordable housing. And then as soon as that became really popular, at one point Pierre had an 80% chance of winning, and then basically Carney came in and said, okay, I'm not getting rid of the carbon tax, but I'm temporarily reducing it to zero. So then there was no reason to switch and vote for conservatives. And then the other thing too, with the housing and stuff, they made some idle promises that will never happen. And then it's the other thing too, if you look at historically, countries oftentimes will vote in the incumbent when there's some sort of war happening. And Canadians really actually feel like we're at war with the US with this trade war. So I think, Carney made strong stance of we're going to negotiate, we're going to be strong and all this. Pierre did too. And in fact, Carney was Trump's preferred candidate to become the prime minister, which is hilarious because it's the liberals and the anti-Trump people that voted him in. But nobody believed Pierre was going to be strong against Trump. They thought, oh, he's little Trump. He's a replica of Trump, the Canadian version. So that's another reason they didn't vote for him. But yeah, that's to sum that up.
Canadians got to buy some Bitcoin.
So don't come to Canada. Is that the...
I mean, you can come to Canada. It's a beautiful country. I mean, there's very great people here. I love it here, but I wouldn't want to move here. It's a declining nation, in my opinion. Which is unfortunate because it has a lot of potential. But it's been very mismanaged. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we can get our shit together. Let's move on to the next one though. I feel very uncomfortable talking about politics. This is an interesting one. I mean, we talked about price, right? I'm gonna present this. Let's see. This is something that has happened recently. This past week, there's been 33,500 Bitcoin bought by ETFs when there's only been 3,150 mined. So more than 10 times as much Bitcoin mined. And, we saw the price appreciation, but there's a lot of talk on social about, MSTR buying 15,000 Bitcoin, price doesn't really move up much. ETFs having massive inflows of capital, price not really moving up much. This has led a lot of people to start speculating and believing that there's paper Bitcoin, there's the OTC, the evil OTC desks that don't affect price. There's no actual Bitcoin at Coinbase Prime, all this stuff, right? So what do you guys think about all this? I have my own opinion that I'll get in on and talk about as well, but would love to hear from you guys first on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily dive too much into on-chain analytics stuff, but you guys know James Checkmatey, right? Check on chain. So he's one of the ones, who I get most of my, on-chain analytics, knowledge from. He had a really great response for somebody's why aren't we at, a million yet or 150K yet, whatever. He's basically people just underestimate how much sell pressure there is. He's there's 10K Bitcoin move on chain in a slow day. So he's if you estimate basically 3K of that is probably short-term holders selling and 3K of it is minimum probably long-term holders selling. He's we just underestimate how much sell pressure there is. There's a lot of people who have a lot of Bitcoin who either are trading it short-term or bought it long before you and I bought it, and they have a lot of it. And they're just yeah, I'm going to fund my lifestyle. And I just think we don't see any of that. There's nobody on Twitter going, I'm selling a bunch of Bitcoin today because I'm really rich. You see the opposite. You see the big buys. You see the hodlers. You see, it's just this sort of confirmation bias of everybody talks about hodling and everybody talks about how much is buying. Nobody goes on Twitter and says, I'm about to sell a bunch of Bitcoin. So we just kind of underestimate how much selling pressure there actually is. And we just, again, tend to be impatient and want it to go up. And I don't know how to explain what goes on chain or what goes on in markets, but I just know anecdotally from the way things move. Last year was just felt sideways for 9 months, right? 56K or whatever. It becomes a meme because it's just sitting there. and then it all goes up at once. I don't know why it happens that way. I just know that tends to be anecdotally my experience of like, there's these charts that say like the vast majority of the price appreciation of Bitcoin happens like in 10 days in a calendar year, which means 354 days. You're just sitting around going, why, poking with the stick. Why isn't it moving? So I don't know how to explain it. I just think we underestimate how much sell pressure there is on any given day. And we just tend to be impatient, and it tends to do this thing where all of a sudden it'll move all at once.
Yeah. And if you are worried that there is a paper Bitcoin going around, last cycle, it was proven that there was a lot of paper Bitcoin going around with FTX and Celsius and Voyager and all those companies. But if you're afraid of it, there's a really easy solution. And that solution is put it in self-custody, put it in cold storage. And if there is paper Bitcoin, you won't be affected. You will be totally fine. So I don't think that there's going to be a way where anyone can actually prove that there is that all this Bitcoin is paper or not paper Bitcoin, but just put it in self-custody and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody else have any speculation, any concepts about this paper Bitcoin? Any ideas?
No
Yeah, we won't know,
speculation for me.
man. We won't know until we hear bad news. Honestly, like I don't know. Who
Always
knows,
assume the
man?
worst, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just
exactly.
assume that there is tons of it.
Yeah, man. Get your
Yeah.
Bitcoin off the exchanges, man.
Yeah, what I'll say is I just had a conversation with Michael Sullivan, a great follow on X, and he kind of pointed out that when we have institutions buying even MSTR, these ETFs, the OTC desks, even they source their Bitcoin sometimes through exchanges, but they're very strategic about it. They're not like how retail buys and sells Bitcoin, how they FOMO in. There's a lot of momentum. There ends up being shortages. There ends up being a lot of frenzy in those kind of things. Institutions, they algorithmically buy, and that actually lowers volatility within an asset that they're buying. And with Bitcoin, what we've seen ever since the ETFs have come in, we've seen these short things of extreme price action, like John mentioned, but we've also seen a reduction in overall volatility compared to the last cycle, and that kind of aligns up with this concept of algorithmic buying, of buying dips and lowering that volatility, and just being very strategic about their buys and sells. So to me, that is why the price isn't moving and why people are thinking about the possibility of paper Bitcoin. I just think the buyers are different this time. The buyers and sellers are different. They act a lot differently, and it's probably going to take a little bit of retail frenzy and that will have contagion effect onto institutions and all the other buyers. Like there's only so much algorithmic strategic buying and selling you can do before it becomes like, well, I have to get this, so it's going to affect the price in this way because there's no other option. So I think when retail comes in, that's going to be a cascading effect on these other bigger money players that will have the price action that we're used to in history with Bitcoin. But that's my theory on why Bitcoin's price isn't skyrocketing from these massive inflows of ETFs and strategy weekly buys.
And also, the other thing too is you can tell there was a lot more buyers this cycle because this year alone, the S&P 500 went down 20%. I mean, if the S&P goes down 20%, you would expect Bitcoin to go down like what, 50, maybe plus, I don't know. We only went down like about 30%. So, I mean, hey, people are buying, so just because the price is not going up doesn't mean that, there ain't no buyers. So I still think, we got buyers out there.
100%. Agree.
I do think I do think it's, Stan, like you said, it's safe to assume that there's shenanigans going on, but I do think the cycle is different where FTX and all these unregulated people and paper Bitcoin and rehypothecating all this crazy stuff. It's far less likely that BlackRock and MicroStrategy and SEC regulated like companies are doing that, like I think it'd be a huge scandal if they didn't actually have the Bitcoin. Like,
Yeah,
we
I
should push
agree
for
with
them
you.
to have proof of
I
reserves.
think it's unlikely that it's happening. I just, for my safety, I'm always assuming the worst, you know. But I pulled up, or I sent you guys a link to the Bitcoin Google Trends.
Yeah,
but this is just
presenting it now.
Yeah, so
There
if
you
we take a look at that, we'll see where retail is, and we see that big pump in 2017 when everyone started hearing about Bitcoin in the first time, and then in 2021 when it was still really popular, how popular it was relatively, and where it is now. Retail does not care about it now. So if you think that this is a frenzy or something like that at $95,000, like it almost looks like we're in the bottom of a bear market for
retail interest. Yeah. Oh, I think Dan froze there. Hopefully we'll have him back, but yeah, I mean, if we overlaid this on a Bitcoin chart,
retail interest, which is
Oh, he's coming in.
Am I there?
You're
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
You're back.
Yep.
Now you are.
Yeah. So all I was saying was that if retail gets interested again, which they will at some point because they're going to have to, you know, we're talking about all these things. Canada is, you know, destroying itself. The United States is destroying itself. The whole world is destroying itself. Bitcoin is going to be the solution, and people are going to realize it sooner or later. If it goes up to where it was in 2017 or even higher, and people decide to actually give it a second look, now that it's, you know, been around for 10 years, like after they've heard of it, and now that it hit $100,000 or maybe $200,000 or whatever that number needs to be, when retail pops in again, actually, the level for it to explode is just enormous.
Yeah. Gen Z, we haven't heard from you. I know we got the gorilla debate in the chat here, but any thoughts on paper Bitcoin or the recent price action?
What's going on, everybody? Sorry, I joined a little bit late. In terms of gorillas, you know what I'm saying? 100 Bitcoin podcasters versus one gorilla. Come on now, man. That's easy money for the Bitcoiners. We have an unwielding spirit. All right, we don't give up and we come up with solutions to stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know how, but we figure it out. Then in terms of the price action, Bitcoin University had a really great video actually breaking that down. It's super interesting. And he focused on that one thing. It was the ability to track Bitcoin's price using the UTXO set. Not exactly sure who was the person who created that. Check out his video. He shouted out his X and all that. So that was really cool. There's no manipulation there. It's all on-chain data, and it was fairly accurate. I think that at the end of the day, someone might always get caught with their pants down trying to pretend like they had the Bitcoin that they don't have. It's hard to tell who that'll be. Maybe it'll be crypto.com. I have very high doubts it'll be someone like a Strategy or like a Coinbase, but you never really know. You want to try to just run your own node, validate your own Bitcoin transactions, and keep an eye on your own stack and cold storage. That's one way to guarantee that your Bitcoin is real.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
And I think one more quick thing with the price, like we're still in a relative expansion period. Like I think a good visualization is like the halving cycle, like looking at the block reward. Like we're still getting 3.5 or whatever, 3 Bitcoin per block. So like there's still a lot more Bitcoin being created, where it's like it's harder to create like a massive supply shock at this point compared to when you're only getting sats for mining new blocks. Yeah,
that is true. There is, and again, yeah, there just is Bitcoin out there. Like it's not that crazy that 30,000. I mean, it is in some ways crazy that 30,000 Bitcoin is being bought a week, and that does eventually catch up. There will end up being a lack of sellers, right? And Rajat says this really well, where he just says sellers run out at every single price. And I do kind of see that happening eventually, right? Because there is outsized demand for an asset that you cannot inflate. It has a fixed issuance. And yeah, it is still 3.125 Bitcoin per block, but there's outsized demand. And once those sellers are exhausted, once they've decided, hey, I'm going to upgrade my life and, you know, sell some Bitcoin here at 95 and maybe I'll hold on to some other or whatever, Eventually that runs out. There's a ton of people with a ton of Bitcoin still, like millions, right? There's millions of Bitcoin out there. People always post these charts of, oh, Bitcoin on exchanges is falling. Well, actually, not all that Bitcoin on that exchange is even for sale at any point. That's just Bitcoin on exchange. That's just people. Part of that is people that haven't figured out self-custody yet. So it's just going to take time, and sellers will put their coins on an exchange when they're ready to sell them if they're holding it in self-custody. So those charts, in my opinion, don't really show that much. A lot of that is people that maybe post stuff that is a little bit less informative and more for views. But yeah, there is something to the fact that there is supply being drawn down constantly, and it is being accumulated in places like the ETFs, in self-custody, and in places like Strategy, 21 Capital now, and many other places buying Bitcoin.
The only thing I want to add, oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the only thing I was to add is like the only other thing that we underestimate is that when Strategy or BlackRock or whatever, when they do the like large buys, they're deliberately trying to do it in a way that doesn't move the price. So like they're not just going to an exchange and buying up the entire sell wall, right? I read there's like a great quote from Michael Saylor where he basically says like, when I'm in the market against you, you'll never see me. He's like, I have a really good team. The full quote, I was trying to find it. It's super kind of savage, where he's like, I'm stealthy and you'll never see me in there. Like I have the best people in the world at doing what they do, and you're never going to see a trace of what we do, right? Like people look on chain, they can't find, well, MicroStrategy bought 15,000 Bitcoin. Where'd they do it? Nobody can find it. They're doing that on purpose because it's algorithmic, it's subtle, it's OTC desks all over the place. It's, private sales, all these different things. I read a great long form tweet of a guy basically saying, I don't know for sure this is how they're doing it, but here's a long list of all the ways they probably buy to stay under the radar intentionally. So, it's not just, like, oh, where's all this Bitcoin going? It's like there's smart people on the other side buying it and trying not to push up their own price. They're not trying to have too much slippage when they buy, and they're good at what they do.
Yeah, exactly. That's to that point that Michael had that I tacked on to at the beginning, or my point there too. Guys, I just found this really cool piece of news here that I'm going to share. Maybe you've seen it. I did share it on Twitter already. Let's see, share this tab. This is Roswell, New Mexico. Now holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Mayor Juliana signed off on the city's new Bitcoin strategic reserve. Let's watch this video, guys. It's only like 30 seconds. Can you hear it?
I can't see it though.
I can't hear it. I don't know if everyone else can.
Okay, all right. I'm not even sharing it. I'm very sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure this shit out. Oh, that's just me. Nope, that's just me and a bunch of people.
You're
All right,
blurry.
while Fourth figures this out. Never mind. We got it. Let's go.
We got it. All right. So if you can't hear it, then I'm not going to play the video. But anyway, this is just her signing this receipt here. This law, basically, that this city of Roswell, I guess it's a city, now holds Bitcoin on their balance sheet. This is actually a public address. They hold Bitcoin, and it was donated to them anonymously, $3,000 worth of Bitcoin, or I think it says in here the exact amount. I don't know if it does actually. Oh yeah, 0.0305 Bitcoin. And I actually went to the address. Let's check it out now. I'm just going to bring up mempool real quick.
How cool is it that they're sharing their address?
Well,
they're already the head of the game of MicroStrategy and
true
all the others.
And part of the reason that they're sharing their address is in that video, they said, if anybody wants to send us some more, here it is. So yeah, so they went from 0.03, now they have 0.05. And, this is the 0.03. You can see all these little stair steps up. Some people are sending them some serious dust here. Here's like, 500 sats and stuff like that. Like, yeah, 546 sats. So hopefully they understand UTXO consolidation. But yeah, these are all the amounts of Bitcoin that they've received. Pretty significant. This is kind of I think this is actually like the first city that's done this. I know Vancouver talked about doing that, but they haven't done it actually. And yeah, what do you guys think about all this? I mean, I think I'll just start off by saying that I think it's really clever that they got it donated and that they just signed this in. Hey, this is our Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not putting taxpayer money to this. We're not putting our savings. We're not putting anything towards this. This was just donated. And in the video as well, that she said, we're going to hold this for 10 years. And hopefully in 10 years, it's worth 300,000. And when it is, it's going to go towards helping elderly people and helping people within our community. And it's like, how could somebody not be okay with that? That's my idea. I thought they went about that really, really cleverly.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to Roswell, but it's a beautiful city. Very alien themed everything.
Yeah, isn't that where Area 51 is?
Aliens.
That's not where Area 51 is. That's where the aliens crash landed. There's like an entire.
Okay, so here's the thing though. The aliens crash landed. The aliens gave us Bitcoin. And now it's the first city to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Damn.
I was
she was an
about
alien.
to go there.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for beating me to it. No, you're absolutely right. If it's the aliens that created Bitcoin and they're kind of repaying Roswell, the city, for being nice to them when they first crash landed on Earth. So good for the aliens. Good for Roswell. Seriously, good for Roswell though. That's really, really awesome. And I know that city, it's been through some hard times recently, but it's beautiful. And I think it really is just great that they're doing it. Hopefully a lot of people will give them a lot more Bitcoin.
Well, what's cool is that we're still so early that we're in that phase where you can get great press and marketing out of becoming a Bitcoin city or whatever, but also like people will send you free sats. Like it's like what's his name, Peter McCormick's football club, right? There's like fans all over the world buying Real Bedford merch because they're the Bitcoin club. Like you can still do that. Any niche, like I know there was like a meat company that got a lot of press because they were like, oh, we're the meat company that's holding Kansas City beef or something that's holding Bitcoin in our treasury. It's like some tiny company with like 2 guys, but you can get like worldwide press and get people donating Bitcoin to you and buying your merch if you just say like, yeah, we're the local cheese shop, but we're now the Bitcoin cheese shop. Like we're early enough where everybody should do it.
Yeah. It's cheat code, right? That's what Peter McCormick always says. Bitcoin's a cheat code. Yeah, like he's only on the map because of Bitcoin, because of his podcast, but like, he's got sponsorships for like some like Z League football club from like Gemini and all these crazy large crypto and Bitcoin companies because of Bitcoin. So yeah, it's definitely
name another way that Roswell, New Mexico is going to get, in the news headlines, right? Like it's
another alien crash.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's super cute. You know what I mean? That they're like, hey guys, go ahead, send us some Bitcoin. I just think that's an awesome thing. Like I truly do think that is like, and I don't mean cute as in like a rude way, but I just think it's like a very sweet and awesome thing. Like people can just send, hey, that's my city. I'm gonna donate to my city. I'm gonna give back to my city. I'm gonna empower my city. You know what I mean? I'm gonna enrich my city. You're literally putting your city on the map. And if you're someone who's a whale, perhaps 50 Bitcoin isn't a big deal to you. And if you can send 50 Bitcoin to your city, like you're literally putting your city on. That's crazy. So I think that's awesome. I think that's really a sweet thing that they're doing. And I think it could be really big. And like you said, it attracts news. It attracts eyeballs. Someone who might not care about the city of Roswell personally because they live so far away might just be like, hey, you know what? That's an awesome thing. I'll send you a Bitcoin. Because it's not a big deal to them. They have 250. It's not a big deal to give one away. So I think that's an awesome thing. Hopefully, more cities, more companies, more tiny mom and pop type places start doing stuff like this. I think that's awesome.
What if Roswell turns into like the next El Zante, in Bitcoin Beach, and
Bitcoin
everyone
desert
starts accepting Bitcoin? Okay, here's a challenge, right? If the Roswell Alien Space Museum, or if the Roswell spaceship McDonald's, they have a McDonald's that looks like a flying saucer. If either of those two companies start accepting Bitcoin as payment, I will be the first one, and I will do a hosting from that location of this feed. So to the owners of those places, accept Bitcoin, and I'll come and I'll be the first customer to pay in Bitcoin and do a recording from it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and just another thing here, I think it's really awesome that they intentionally said that they're going to keep this thing for a long time. So they have somebody there. I don't know if it's the person that signed it or the person that is behind the camera, but somebody there understands Bitcoin enough to realize that this isn't just something we receive and we create an address and we go spend this and we use it for something temporarily. Like they have the concept that this is something really valuable and to reserve and to keep for a while and allow it to grow in purchasing power as it becomes more and more adopted. So I think that's a really like key point to point out.
Roswell is
about that.
hodlers.
Yeah, exactly. Roswell
think
model.
It has a lot like better energy than like, oh, here's my Venmo, or like here's a link you can go donate to our city. Like it's just way better energy.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Any final thoughts on that one before we move on to the next topic? No? Okay. Great. Let's check out this one here. This is there's been a little bit of debate here. I mean, we've actually talked about this prior episode, I believe. And let me just bring up to stage. I have way too many tabs. Oh, here we go. So the IMF actually said on record, they said that El Salvador, the government of El Salvador has complied with not acquiring more Bitcoin with the public government funds. And then you go to the Bitcoin office and they're stacking every single day, apparently on chain, which is really interesting because for one, there's this big push towards proof of reserves, which I think is an excellent, thing that we should keep companies, businesses, all these important entities accountable. But right in here, we have this conflict of two people saying two different things, and we literally have no idea which one is true, even with proof of reserves, which I think is an interesting topic. What do you guys think about all this?
I guess it's not really proof of reserves if we can't prove that it's true, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's people even talking about like, being able to sign a transaction as more of a proof that is actually your Bitcoin, not just Bitcoin in a wallet. I mean, here the discrepancy maybe is a little bit different because it's like, in my opinion, I think it's pretty well. Either they're defying the IMF, which would be kind of crazy because they just took out a big loan and there's contingencies within that loan of them not actually getting all of the amount. They have to like wait a certain amount of time before they get more money from the IMF. And if they're going against what the IMF is wanting them to do, then they're probably not going to get that additional money. So either they are complying and they're faking acquiring more Bitcoin. And the way they would do that is they just have other wallets that aren't public and they're transferring that in. That's like kind of the main speculation of how they're doing that. I mean, I guess the proof of reserves is still good that it shows that it's their Bitcoin, but it's not really showing transparently that they're buying it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think the two most interesting things about it to me are, one, why did the IMF care so much if El Salvador buys Bitcoin? It's interesting to me that that this was such a big contingent of you getting this. Like, you can't buy Bitcoin, you can't mine Bitcoin, you got to make sure it's not legal tender. It's like, okay, they're feeling threatened. So like, that's interesting that the IMF cares that much. Why, a decade ago, right? Like, why do they care about this magic internet money if it's so stupid and it's such a Ponzi scheme and not worth anything? Why do they care so much? But they clearly do care. And to me, ultimately, whether or not El Salvador is still buying in defiance of what the IMF said, they're publicly flouting the directive and they're publicly projecting that they are still buying it. So either way, they're giving them the finger, which, right? Like, even if they're not literally buying it today and they're transferring from some other wallet, they're still publicly giving the IMF the finger, which to me has the same effect, doesn't it? Like, regardless of whether they're actually flouting it. Like, I don't think you could get away with going like, oh, we're the backdoor with the IMF. You're like, oh, no, we weren't really buying it. I promise. We just wanted everyone to think we were. The IMF would be like, well, you're telling everyone you're giving us the finger publicly. Yeah. We're not happy with that. So in principle, like, at the end of the day, they're giving them the finger one way or the other, which the IMF can't be that happy about. So I don't know. It just seems like they're basically saying like, they either think, oh, the IMF doesn't have any recourse to like make them pay the price for giving them the finger publicly. It seems like they seem to be flouting it and saying we don't care.
You know, I think the IMF knows that because Bitcoin is an escape. That's why they care so much. And part of me is like, I'm like, damn, I feel like something, I don't want to say bad, but like something might happen because, you know, going against the IMF, you're a small ass third world country. I'm like, in history, I've seen that happen a lot where, you know, there might be some drama, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But also, low key, I kind of hope like other third world countries take after what, you know, they see what El Salvador is doing and they take action too, you know, because obviously I mean, if you guys don't know, I'm from Haiti, Central America. So, you know, part of me, I'm like, man, I hope some of y'all do the same, you know. So I don't know, that's
So
just
it's a
me.
personal vendetta for you with the IMF. and how they screwed Haiti.
Indeed. I'm like, come on, man.
I mean, the IMF has screwed so many countries,
so bad. Yeah.
particularly in Central and South America. That you know, when you're saying that El Salvador is giving them the finger, it's a well-deserved finger. The IMF probably deserves a lot more. So, you know, I'm hoping that that El Salvador is still buying. I don't know if they're still buying, but I'm hopeful that they are still buying. And I'm hopeful that El Salvador ends up being very successful with this. And I'm hoping that all the other countries in South America follow El Salvador's lead, become successful too, and kind of become a little bit freer and richer and less exploited by the IMF and the powers that be. So good for El Salvador. I'm not going to give the finger to the IMF, but I am.
Yeah, and I think it's just cool to see like the potential Bitcoin offers for, you know, like financial benevolence, like just tying that in with the Roswell thing. Like you can just send Bitcoin anywhere, and like there's so much potential for like underdeveloped countries to like receive that support from the rest of the world. Like there's no good way to do that. Like in elementary school, we'd like send canned goods or whatever, but like now with Bitcoin, like you have that opportunity to do so much good financially and like really like redistribute wealth in such a great way.
Yeah, you know, I just wish that the El Salvador Bitcoin project had been so successful in such a short amount of time that they wouldn't have to even shake hands with the IMF again. You know, like there's that idea of like FU money, right? And it's just not quite there. Like if you look at the numbers, it's just not quite there. Not yet, at least. I mean, they've got a very respectable stack for the size of the country. They seem to be doing good stuff there. And eventually, I think that Bitcoin will be a game changer for that country and has the potential of, you know, maybe seeing other countries that are in, you know, that are being held hostage in some ways by the debt of the IMF. Maybe it can give them some hope. And, you know, I know Bitcoin personally has given us all a lot of hope. And it would be great to see that happen to nations that have really had the butt end of the stick here.
Agreed. I think that's you said it really well. So,
all right. If there's nothing else there, we're gonna get on to some questions now. I've started a bunch of them. I want to thank Janet for signing up and becoming a member. Appreciate that. TCC.
Let's go.
TCC says Ukraine and the U.S. just signed the minerals deal. I haven't seen it or heard that, but if so, wonder if Bitcoin's price will go up as a result. What do you guys think? If again, I don't pay that close attention to the news. I haven't seen that. I don't know if you guys have.
So TTC, can you explain why you think Bitcoin might go up as a result of this minerals deal? I don't see the direct connection. I think Bitcoin's obviously going to go up go up in price regardless. But maybe you guys see something that I don't. Do you guys see any reason why?
Yeah, well, the deal is predicated on peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. At least that's my understanding of it. Or it was when Zelensky showed up without wearing a suit to the White House. That was the concept. So that would be the idea, is like peace talks is going to be good for Bitcoin's price. No more war, basically, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's mostly a easing of uncertainty, right? It's just being able to get a step closer to closing the chapter on yet another like geopolitical issue. You know what I mean? So I don't think it'll have a major impact on the price. There won't be a major pop because of this, but it's just one more reason for people not to fret, I guess. It's a step closer to more certainty rather than uncertainty. So that's always good for all markets, including Bitcoin.
And with what Dan said, it's going to go up regardless. Bitcoin will go up as a result of the passage of time too. So the answer is yes.
Right. All right. So let's move on to this next one. We only got 15 minutes, a few questions here. So we're going to maybe go a little quick through these ones. Miami Hodel on X asks, what do you think about power law versus other models, or of where the price could go? I really do think diminishing returns only appear to be taking place because of prevailing macroeconomic factors. We could be in for explosive growth. What do you guys think about modeling Bitcoin's price? I mean, power law has been controversial, but I suppose correct in a lot of ways too. Do you guys think that all models are broken, as many people say? Or is there something to these models?
All models are definitely broken.
All models are broken.
I mean, it works till it doesn't work, right? Like, isn't that how all of them work? Like, when it doesn't work, then what happens? Like, you say, oh, well, it didn't work because X and it'll work next time. It's like, the thing that's most interesting to me is the people who end up making it their whole thing. I know that the power law guy is like, a lot of people like don't like the power law guy because he's like searching his name on Twitter every day for somebody who criticizes the power law and then like jumping in and like, he kind of stirs shit up. Like, these people who talk shit about him. But so, all right, power law guy, don't come at me. But
Giovanni is going to be in your DMs after this.
Yeah, he is. It's accurate until it's not. That's how all these things work, right? Like, if they were accurate forever, wouldn't everybody just trade it that way and front run it, and then by definition make it no longer accurate?
100%. Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much. In the words of Plan B, models are useful, but none of them are guaranteed. So I think that we'll continue to break them to the upside. So I'm down for that.
Yeah, that's a really good point there, Gen Z. I do think the models break, and they break to the upside 100% with Bitcoin. All right, so Verhoofty Flufen asks, guys, should I sell the house for Bitcoin and just rent? Some additional information here is their mortgage is due in late 2026. Does that mean it's like re-upping for the mortgage? Mortgage is due. I'm not sure what they mean by that, actually. But what do you guys think? Should they sell the house for Bitcoin and just rent?
Dude, it's tough to make personal financial decisions for somebody else. The problem is it's a financial decision versus a lifestyle decision. Some people hate debt, and the debt sitting on them feels like pressure and they hate it. And some people want to look at it just as, what are the returns, right? Like, should I buy a car with cash because I don't like having debt, or should I finance the car at 6% because I think Bitcoin's gonna gain more than 6%, and therefore it's just a financial decision? So if it's a lifestyle decision and you're like, I don't want to risk my family's house, I mean, that's like a big deal, right? You're like, oh, if I have a family or kids or whatever and I have a house and I'm potentially risking that by what if Bitcoin, goes down or doesn't do what we think it's going to do, that's risky. But financially, it probably would be smarter to sell the house and buy Bitcoin and rent, but like, that's risky.
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest things that I would consider is, what's the interest rate on the mortgage? If you're locked in at a very low interest rate, it's going to be hard to let that go. I would probably just keep it and then take the money I'm saving from rent and just keep on DCAing into Bitcoin. If you have a high mortgage, and maybe selling really is the right decision. I'll tell you this much. I have never bought a house specifically so I could just smash buy as much Bitcoin as possible. So,
based.
Yeah.
I'll tell you from personal experience, I sold the farm. I sold my house. I bought Bitcoin. My interest rate was 1.89%. It was crazy low. It was insanely low.
Hell?
But
Sure.
in Canada, we do not have full term fixed mortgages. It's basically the longest fixed rate you can get is 5 years. So I had a house for 3 years. It was going to come up in 2 years. I looked at the market cycles. I thought this is a good enough time to sell. There's freedom in renting. There's a sense of, I don't know, sense of like security in owning. But you never really own the house anyway. The property taxes are the first things that need to get paid. If you don't do that, you definitely don't own your house anymore. So do you really own it to begin with? And again, yeah, it's a lifestyle choice, like John said, and you shouldn't really, I mean, you should consider all the talking points that we all have, but you really need to make this decision for yourself. None of us should really sway you in any way. It's just all information.
Hey, Verhuti, don't listen to these guys, man. Go ahead, sell the house, live out of your car. Come on now.
What
There we
about
go.
R2? What are we doing?
Yeah, what about take out a HELOC and then put that in MSTY and then use that to pay the no, all right.
You know what you could do, Verhoofd, like if depending on what your lifestyle is, you could sell the house and then move to like a cheaper country like Indonesia or Thailand or El Salvador and live like a king, have a lot of extra money, put that all into Bitcoin, and you could be making the best of all worlds. Obviously, that's very, very dependent on your job, your family, everything. But that's what I'm considering doing personally. So if you do that, maybe I'll see you in one of those countries.
2.49%. That's pretty low.
Yeah,
But,
that's pretty low, man. That's going to be hard to get rid of.
That's pretty tough. Yeah. HELOC is a good idea. I mean, that's kind of the best of both worlds. Yeah, I don't know. There's some ideas there. Let's go on to this. Oh, actually, super chat from Paul. Thanks very much for the $10.
Let's
Is
go,
huge.
Paulie. Let's go.
Paul, you're the boss. All right. So how many Bitcoin do you guys have?
Not enough.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Highlight my response to that.
Oh, your response is way back there. Why don't you just maybe say it again? I'll find it if you.
No worries. Basically, what I was saying, this is just my opinion. I said, one, don't really talk about how much Bitcoin you have, and two, more than zero is how much you should have. If we want to talk about numbers, some people will say 0.21, some people will say 0.1, some people like British Hodl will say 1 entire Bitcoin. So depends on who you ask. They're all going to give you a different number, but the 100% correct answer is always going to be more than zero. You have to have more than 0 Satoshis, and then you should consistently continue buying, right? If you just smash buy $100 one time, it is what it is. You know, you'll still have more than 0. So you still did a good thing, but I think you'll have a lot of remorse looking back because you could have had more. So just dollar cost average, as long as you have more than 0, you're on the right path.
More than yesterday.
I have a different answer. I thought your answer was great, but mine's a little bit different. I think that the amount of Bitcoin that you should own should be proportional to the amount that you understand it. And the reason why I say this is because the way that most people lose their Bitcoin is they get really hyped up, not really understanding it very well. They buy it really high and then it crashes because it always crashes eventually. And because they don't understand it, they always end up selling low. So they do the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to buy low, sell high. They buy high and sell low. The more you understand it, the more you won't feel fear when the price goes down. You know, we talk about the fear and anxiety index with Bitcoin all the time. And, you know, normal people are really scared all the time. But for us, when the price went from $108,000 to $74,000, no one on this channel was scared one bit. No one on the channel sold one Satoshi. In fact, pretty sure we all bought close to the bottom because we just know it's going up. I buy like every Friday. So whatever price it was on Friday is what I bought it at. But like, own as much as, the amount that you own should be proportional to how much you understand it. And if you don't feel like you understand it, then you shouldn't have that much money in Bitcoin personally, in my opinion, because there's a good chance that you're going to sell it cheap. But the more you understand it, the more you won't have to ask that question.
Yep.
It also depends on when you want to retire too. You know, like there's a certain amount that, you know, you can have. And, you know, if you want to retire in 5 or if you want to retire in 10 years, I mean, that amount would matter. So it's
Yeah.
a bunch of different factors.
I agree
that
basically
number
100%.
varies with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I basically agree 100% with what you said, Dan. It's basically like the goal is basically two things: study Bitcoin, and then don't think about how much to own, think about how much to buy. So like set a DC. I would say set a DCA, and don't think about it. Like the same way you'd be like, well, what percentage of my paycheck goes to my 401k, right? Like you just set that. You don't think about it you're like, oh, what am I buying the S&P at this week when I get a paycheck? Oh, I'm gonna stop my DC my contribution because it went up. Like you don't worry about it. You just some of it comes out of your paycheck, goes in your 401k every week, every 2 weeks or whatever. Set a DCA, which is an amount that's appropriate that you think is good, and then or works for you, and then study Bitcoin. And as you study and your conviction grows, your DCA is gonna grow, and you're like, oh shit, it just went down. I got to smash buy with whatever leftover money I have is gonna grow. So it's like I agree with Dan. It's like it's gonna be proportional to your conviction as your stack is gonna grow.
And
When I
also,
got to a
let's say
when I got to a certain point of understanding, and this was like years ago, I haven't bought anything since. I stopped adding to my 401k. I stopped buying stocks. I stopped doing all of that stuff, and it's just pure Bitcoin all the way. And I think probably I'm not the only one on here that did the same thing.
And also, let's say your goal is 1 Bitcoin, right? Let's say you reach that goal. Like, are you just gonna stop saving in Bitcoin and start saving in fiat? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, never stops. Just keep on doing your thing, man.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, we got 2 more questions here. We're going to try to get to them. We only got 4 minutes left here before we got to go. So same guy asks, would the incoming economic recession crush the BTC? I am worried about the massive liquidation on the stock market and crypto market if China and US couldn't reach a deal. A lot of that's unfounded. I don't think Bitcoin cares. I mean, we're denominating something that is fixed with something that is variable. If anything happens to the economy, the antidote that the central banker thinks to save it is liquidity, is money printing, is debasing all savers of that currency. And that is exactly what Bitcoin was designed for. So Bitcoin is going to recover the fastest if there is any sort of drawdown. I don't personally feel like there's going to be a massive drawdown, but I could be wrong. But if there is, the first thing to recover will be Bitcoin anyway.
There's always a massive drawdown eventually, and Bitcoin always goes up much higher than it was before. So,
yeah, I'm pretty sure like if you look at like the best times in the last 20 years to have bought the S&P, it was probably 2008. Housing crisis and March 2020. So Bitcoin only existed for one of those 2 things, but probably the best time to buy Bitcoin in the last 20 years was March 2020 when it just like fell off a cliff. So like that's a buying opportunity if it does happen. We are reaching a point, I think, where we finally hit this point where the decoupling, where Bitcoin will act more like a risk off asset if everything else goes down. That's probably, realistically, we're probably not there yet. Like if there's a big market sell off, like Bitcoin's going to go down too, but that is not going to kill it. So if anything, it's a buying opportunity, right? Like,
yeah. And timing the market's going to be hard anyway with that stuff. Like, yeah, how much cash are you going to have on the sidelines? How long are you going to be waiting? Is the crash, it could go down 70%, but if the top is way higher than here, then that could still be above today's current price. So again, it's just incredibly hard to time it. Probably dollar cost average is the best for your mental. Maybe it's not the best strategy, like technically, but it is probably the easiest for the average person to do. Last question here, guys. Is the IMF run by a bunch of ex-bankers or politicians? I actually don't know the ins and outs of the IMF. It's a blind spot in my knowledge here, but you guys have any insight on who the IMF actually is?
It's a lot of people, and a lot of them are bankers and politicians. I think it goes back and forth. You just said that the new president of Canada was an IMF guy or a central banker. Is that right?
Central banker. Yeah.
Central banker. Yeah, they're all very intertwined. It's hard to even tell the difference between one or the other. There's a lot of really interesting stories about the IMF. Ralph and I just brushed it really quickly, but I mean, they totally screwed his country of Haiti. I'll probably be making some videos about how bad the IMF is and some of the things that they've done. But yeah, yes to your question. Is it a lot of bankers and politicians? Yes.
Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Well, the chat is popping off now, but it's coming up to the hour and I got to go. I got a Bitcoin meetup to get to. So the virtual Bitcoin meetup here is great, but the in-person one is great as well. So thanks everybody for tuning into the chat. Again, I'm Forrest Hodel, Dan from Through the Cracks. I'll post all the links again to your guys' channels in the description. Josh from WorkSafe Bitcoin, Gen Z BTC.
That's crazy.
John, my favorite thing about Bitcoin, and Ralph from Nurse Hodel. Thank you guys for being on the call here and weighing in on these questions and everything.
Yo, peace.
Thank you all. See you on the next one.
See you guys.
Stack
Sell your
sats
house
or
for
die
hoofty
trying.
floofty.